Happy Tuesday, everybody, and welcome to this week's training video, 2 tips to writing great dialogue. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Elke Feuer. I'm an author and the founder of K Writers. Hold on, the lighting is a little bit not so great. Hold on. Oh, that's not any better. Okay. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay. So I'm Elke Feuer. I'm an author and founder of K Writers, and I help writers create a writing routine that fits their lifestyle so they can write their books with confidence and consistency. So first of all, let me apologize for missing last week. Still trying to find that balance with my part-time job, especially with unexpected projects that tend to crop up. So thank you for your patience. So, dialogue, when I was creating this, I was trying to decide which way to go because dialogue covers a huge range. So I kind of decided to pick these 2 tips just obviously for the sake of brevity because I know your time is precious, and for me, for one. And then the second thing is that for me, it's really important that the content that I share with you is bite-sized and something that's easy for you to implement rather than overloading you with a whole bunch of content that you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to actually use this in my writing tomorrow? So, like I said, I narrowed it down to 2 tips. So, the most important thing to remember about dialogue, it's really not like real speech. It kind of takes out the ums and the ohs, although, sometimes we add it in there. So, it's not like real speech. And then the other thing is that it also retains the most critical parts of speech and talking, which I'm going to share in the first tip. And the first tip is your dialogue must have a purpose. You don't want to have small talk. How's the weather? I don't know. What do you want to do? That is really going to bore your readers. So I'm going to share with you some ways to make your dialogue have a purpose. And one is it should move the story along in some way or keep us up to date with what's going on in the story. An example could be, there's a discussion or conflict that happens that within a dialogue that is going to push your hero to the next step in their to that is one way that you can use dialogue to move the story forward. Okay. The next is to give insight. Use dialogue to give insight into your characters' thoughts, feelings, or personality, which really helps share more about them to the readers and let the readers decide, do I like them? Don't I like them? Ooh, or have they got something up their sleeve? Dialogue is a great way to do that, and a great way that dialogue can have a purpose. Okay. The next is dialogue can provide details about a setting, location, or it can set the mood. And it really adds texture to your story instead of just sharing these details by telling the readers. You can include all of these things and make the dialogue have a purpose by telling the readers about your setting, about your location within the dialogue. That is a great way for dialogue to have a purpose. And last but certainly not least is to infer subtext to the readers. And what I mean by that are like pauses, not ums and ahs, but pauses, avoidance, hesitation to answers, or perhaps mumbled replies is a great way to use dialect and let it have a purpose. And it also really makes the writers or the readers think within the context of that dialogue and the subtext of the dialogue. Okay, and tip number 2 is to be true to your character's voice. Oh my goodness, this is so important. When you're writing dialogue, sometimes whether we intend to or not, our characters can sound a lot like us, and although that can sometimes add a little bit of texture to your character's voice, if it's overdone, a lot of your characters can come out sounding like you or sounding all the same, and that's not what you want. You really want each character to have their own unique voice. And some ways that you can either avoid making them sound the same or make sure that they don't sound the same is knowing your character's background. Because the truth is, somebody who is cultured versus street smart are going to sound completely different from each other. They're going to use different words, different. They're going to have a different everything, pretty much. So that is one way that you can really help to make your character's voice unique, is to know what their background is. The next is their personality. Oh my goodness. We can really have people who are, comedians that are going to sound completely different from somebody who's serious, like on so many levels. So just knowing your character's personality can really add a lot to creating a unique voice for that character. Okay, and next, their voice should be diverse and real. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. In one of my books, I had, different characters that were from Cayman, but they all sounded different. And I went out of my way to make sure that they did, whether it was what they did, what they said, the words that they used, because even in an island as small as Cayman, whether somebody is from West Bay versus East End. There's unique ways that they talk, and I wanted to bring that to my characters. So that's really important, that even though your characters might be from the same place, that you create and be aware of them having their own unique voice in one form or another. Okay? The next is that they have their own language, and that kind of just piggybacks on what I was saying about being diverse and real. Because, for instance, somebody from West Bay uses very different sort of words and slangs than somebody from East End or North Side. Maybe not East End and North Side, but you get the idea. They use different slangs, dialect, tone, accents. Somebody could be European, but that doesn't mean if you have two European characters that they're going to sound the same. They're going to have their own unique language, and they should, so that you make that character's voice unique and their own. Okay? The next is have them express themselves with body language. Ooh, I love this. This is such a great one. And this really sort of piggybacks on all the things that I've been saying. Somebody's personality, their body language is really who's a comedian, their body language is going to be completely different from somebody who's more serious. They might be more stiff. And, it's good to include that in the dialogue for your characters, so that it does make them unique. The words that they say, for instance, let me give you an example. What did I have? Who are you? Like if you say, hands on the hips, and they say, who are you? Is very different than if your character sort of stands there and say, oh, who are you? With their hands up. They're using the same words, but their body language is different. And that is another way to make your character's voice unique, by using body language specific to them. Okay? The next, or I should say last but certainly not least, is to show, don't tell them when you're using dialogue. And to give you an example, for instance, if you have, two characters who are, they've been best friends since childhood, you don't want to tell the readers they've been best friends since childhood and are, inseparable. You can use dialogue. You can show that through dialogue, with the way they joke, the way they interact, the words that they use, and that is a great way to show your readers that relationship with those characters, and also add a unique voice to your characters that make those two characters distinctly different as well too, within the dialogue and the dialogue and the relationship that they have. So just remember, I know some people love dialogue. Dialogue is not my favorite thing to write. I find it extremely challenging, which is hilarious because I could talk till the cows come home. But actually writing dialogue within my characters, I struggle with it. And, but at the same time, I recognize that it's an art form, and it's something that I'm constantly learning how to improve and how to be better, and how to make my character's voice unique, and how to write better dialogue. And that's really important. Don't beat yourself up and say, well, I can't write dialogue, so I'm not going to include it in my story. I'm going to put like this much dialogue within a scene instead of making it robust. You know, like anything to do with writing, any writing skill, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes learning. So I just want to encourage you, you know, don't be afraid to dive in there and learn more about dialogue, because there's a whole other range of topics, subtopics that I could have included in this. But as I said, I try to keep these videos to 15 minutes. I think the 30-minute ones were a bit too long. So I'm trying to aim now for 15 minutes to make it easier and, like I said, make them bite-sized. So those were my 2 tips. I hope you found them helpful. And, you know, I always love to hear what writers use as their go-to tips to write better, or so I would love to hear your go-to tips for writing great dialogue in the comments. If you could go ahead and share those. Or, you know, if you feel like it, just share the struggles that you have with dialogue, and perhaps maybe I can make that a separate training video and expand on dialogue a little bit better. Whatever you want to put in the comments to do with those 2, the most important thing is that I hear from you and what you're looking for and what you love. All right, so if you enjoyed this training and you'd like to have more access to you know, writing topics, I want to invite you to join or to sign up for the Writers Academy, which I'm planning on launching this year. And you can find out more about it at bit.ly/writers_A, all one word. And not only to find out more information, but also to go on the waiting list, okay? So I will put the link in the comments, as I usually do for those kind of things. And I just want to wish you a fantastic week, and I look forward to hearing your comments on the video, as well as interacting with you later on in the week. Have a fantastic rest of the week, and I will see you later. Bye.